There are studies that show that when people gain wealth, they lose empathy. There's multiple studies on the matter. I think that that's very predictable. Like, that makes sense to me. Because if you gain a bunch of money, you are no longer interdependent for survival as much on the people around you, because you can, quote unquote, afford to provide for yourself. And the less you need your community, the less you feel like you're one with your community, and the more you're your own person. The more individualistic you get, the more territorial you get, the more rigid your boundaries, and the less involved with other people you can get. The high sense of I'm the only one who matters creates a protective defensiveness, and that defensiveness makes sense to me that it would turn into a competitiveness. And if you are competing with the people around you instead of being a team with the people around you, then of course you wouldn't have as much empathy for them because you're in competition with them. A wealthy person not being really part of their own community makes absolute sense to me. A wealthy person is self-interested. They are self-centered, which is different than selfish. Selfish means always only thinking about what you want or you need. And self-centeredness means that all of your thoughts include yourself. Whether they're necessarily about what you want or need or not, your thought has you in it. Thinking about other people creates opportunities to empathize with them. But if you're not really thinking about them and you're just thinking about you and what you need to get done and what you're up to, and here's your money and your stuff and your busyness and your whatever, you don't really have a lot of time for thinking about other people. And so other people become an afterthought. When you're wealthy, it makes so much sense that that would be a result, because a lot of wealthy people distrust that people love them unconditionally, or do they just love them for their money? Oh, are you just trying to get to my money? Are you just trying to get to what is of value to me? But the thing is that people have value even when they don't have money. And the same thing could be said for pretty much any situation. You could say, oh, that woman's beautiful. How does she know anyone is ever getting with her because they care about her versus her beauty? Is she just a sex object? How does she know? Maybe she doesn't have any money, but there's a trade-off. There's a suspicion there. And so maybe she starts to get more individualistic because she doesn't want to be objectified. And then she gets more competitive. And then she gets more isolated. And then she's not really one with the community. You could say, hey, that guy always is protecting people. He's always there for people. Okay, well, now he's just a tool. And people just use him. Good for him, I guess. But no one actually loves him. No one cares about him. People like him for his nature, not for him. He doesn't matter. He's a safety blankie that people take out and use when they want to. He's an object. People have value besides financially. And the same thing can happen to them. The same thing can be done to them. That guy gets sick of being taken advantage of all the time, and he just becomes a loner and stays by himself all the time playing video games because he's so sick of people just treating him like crap. And suddenly he's not part of the community anymore. He's not thinking about the other people all the time anymore. And his empathy starts to go down, and his defensiveness comes up. His competitiveness, his territorialness comes up. Any of these situations, it's the same thing. So does it surprise me that someone who feels like they have something to offer or something of worth is suspicious that that's all anyone wants from them? And it just happens to be money in that situation for the rich person? No, it doesn't surprise me at all. But the big, huge difference between the rich person and, say, the girl who doesn't want to be objectified as a sex object. The rich person doesn't want to be objectified as a financial bank. They don't want to be a money object. The guy who doesn't want to be used all the time because of his kind nature. Like, okay, he goes off and pulls himself up. He doesn't want to be an object. He wants to be a person. The big, huge problem is that the guy who goes off and is a loner by himself, he gets socially judged. He gets to be pressured. Hey, don't be an introvert. Don't go off and hide all the time. Why are you being so shy? Come out and play. Come do stuff. Whatever. It's not healthy for you to be all by yourself in the dark room with your video game all day. The girl, she starts becoming like more and more closed off and obsessed with only her workaholicness. And the therapist is like, yeah, seriously, stop over functioning. You need to go and actually rest. You need to go and do things that are fun with people and stop constantly obsessively working yourself to death because you're so afraid of interconnection. The rich person who's telling them, hey, you know what? You need to go be part of your community. Instead, they're lauded as the goal, as the dream. So many people dream of being the rich person, but the rich person can be actually pretty miserable. It's so socially acceptable to be wealthy, even though it creates that distance. It's even somewhat socially acceptable to be a workaholic. Go be that boss bitch girl. And then you've got the loner guy, and he's the least socially acceptable. Oh, he's obviously so depressed. Oh, look at his anxiety. Oh, blah, blah, blah. It's just like this, oh, you're a pure detraction to society. When in actuality, he's a really good person. He's just been hurt so many times. There's a rejection that comes when it's not financially based. And so the rich person who is in competition with all other humans in their community instead of being a team with all other people in his community doesn't really get pushed to do something otherwise by the people that he respects. Maybe some of the poor people want him to calm him down and start helping the community, but they're poor people. They're lazy, whatever. And he can be dismissive of it because it's socially acceptable to be rich. They're just jealous. They just wish that they were me. So why wouldn't they be less empathetic? Why would any study find otherwise? It makes complete and total sense. In reality, the majority of rich people desperately need mental health care. They're actually, for the most part, pretty desperately in need of help. And yet, they're what the goal is. Those are the people we want to be.